Okay. So here we are. We've lined the motherboard up as best we can. And we are now going to go through the fun and the joy of mount screws.
Yeah.
Remember, do this at home, but carefully. Because if while you're reefing on that thing, you skid that screw across that motherboard, you will be sourcing another one.
You will be very unhappy with your life choices up until that point. Why do we have standoffs? It's a very good question. Basically, standoffs are just going to be there for a couple of major reasons, including, but not limited to, anchoring the board and grounding the board to the chassis.
And why is anchoring important? Why don't we just screw them into the case itself?
Well, I guess I may have misspoke when I referred to it as anchoring, because yes, it anchors it to the board, but it also elevates what will be soon the electrified components away from the actual conductive surface of a metal chassis. Otherwise, we'd be building computers out of non-conductive materials, which unfortunately, lots of non-conductive materials also have one small side effect. They don't handle heat well. So unless you're using some special, like, temperature-resistant plastic, which they do use in certain computer components, including stuff like this really awesome cooler, and a few others, but we won't get into that. That's a totally different topic for another day. It'll melt. It'll just freaking melt, and you'll have a bad time.
What do you got right there?
So this is actually one of the most handy, neatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm going to share it with you. If you can see it, cool. If not...
Here, hold on. Okay, now lift her up just a little bit. There we go.
So I've never seen one of these in application at all, ever. But basically they did was create a fully toolless,
Thank you.
like I/O anchor, essentially, if you will. So basically this is going to hold in any of your expansion slots. Due to the fact that some of the slots are actually anchored in with screws, I needed to remove this so I could remove them. This may go back in. This also might go where the Thermaltake case went. Did we record that? Or did we just throw it in the trash?
What's that?
The old
exhaust
fan.
We did not.
I do not know if we did or not.
We didn't. Here we go.
We did dust it for you guys a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that if you were to consume some of the dust on this thing, you might officially be immune to many, 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 many problems. So where did we say this went again? In the bin, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. However, let's take a close look at it. This is what probably came with this case.
I would say.
And if you look at it right side up, you can see it's a Thermaltake TT1225 brushless fan.
Yes.
All right. This was made in Hongsheng,
Not sure where that is, but it sounds interesting.
somewhere in China.
We should visit.
And, quite frankly, if you look at the really snazzy orange and yellow coloration, you can tell this was pre-RGB style LEDs.
That was the bling on it.
But that was the bling back in the day.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Lee, not going back in this computer.
No.
No, I'm tempted to hook it up just for pure like decibel noise and be like, we could have had this.
Yes, we could have.
And then watch the computer hover above the desk because it's taking off. Or we'll probably replace it with...
Or the system dim as it sucked the power supply dry. But in its day, it was a modern day miracle.
Yeah, I believe it.
An orange fan. Oh my goodness.
I almost want to retrofit my fans at home with the orange blades, but I'm not going to go Molex power.
Here, allow me, sir.
Please.
Thank you.
All right.
And here you go.
Later.
Bye.
So while we were talking about that gross thing, I did remove the last of the I/O shields that, in theory, well, that's not what they're called. Sorry. PCIe slot covers that are going to be in our way for installing the graphics card. I can start tilting that up, but however, I am going to go to wiring first, as the system would be basically done.
Here you go. That's where they were.
This one was here. These
Yeah.
two were unpopulated. However, I'm fairly certain with my card, I need this one to be out.
Right, and the reason he needs that one is because you see the big long yellow thing?
The big long yellow thing.
The
Yes.
big long yellow thing with its back end pushed down. Here, point it that way, you man.
That guy right here. That one.
Yeah, and now
This guy.
that's where we're going to pop it in.
Mm-hmm.
And the two tiny little ones, they're nice,
They're nice.
but one of them, the one next to it, is probably going to be covered by this monster graphics card that we're going to slap into it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's already RAM in this motherboard.
Yeah.
Oh, we missed that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I installed it so I'd have less to carry. You did see I brought a computer case and a backpack over here, right?
Right.
So I do apologize. I had to do one more thing while you guys weren't looking, but now I hate it, so I'm going to undo it. I
Okay.
am plugging in one of the last components that we need outside of power, which is audio. So it is keyed in such a way that it has a non-pop blocked off pin area, so you can't put it in any other way. I mean, you can if you want it to just break.
And Matt, don't worry about the confusion part, because if there's going to be any confusion, I know how to do that.
Every day.
That's right. I do confusion. In fact, yes. So I'll let you know, because when I'm sitting there looking at you with that blank, cross-eyed deer in the headlights, you know,
Words
glazed.
don't make sense to me anymore, Bob. Why?
Yeah.
So yeah, in theory, we could totally just get rid of that. We have more than enough USB jacks or plugs,
Connectors or what have you.
or whatever the female portion where you plug your USB into. There's more than enough where that could be considered an accessory, and like an appendix could just go out the window. Unfortunately, I'm trying to do the utmost to not leave open PCIe holes in the back of the case. I'm trying to make sure that those are properly shielded, if for no other reason than aesthetics, and it bothers me. We're running into one major problem I'm seeing right now. Cable management is going to be a friggin' nightmare in this thing. There's plenty of room to put cables places, not a whole lot of places to hide cabling. Most modern day cases have a cavity behind the motherboard plate
That allows you to channel.
that you
those-
can channel
right.
the stuff. This one really doesn't. So that's going to be a little bit of a bummer. We did mention the case was $10, right?
We did.
Okay. It
Yeah.
was $10. We'll deal with Spaghetti Monster Sandwich. At least these are fully sleeved.
Alright.
We can zip tie them together.
And-
have 'em out. So, guys, gals, and everybody else, I think we're literally to the point where we could probably throw some drives in, hook up some electronics, and call it a day. So I'm going to work through this,
Alright.
the Spaghetti Monster Sandwich, make sure we have power where we need it, no power where we don't, and then we will make sure that we've hooked up things like our drives. You know what?
We haven't installed them yet.
We haven't installed them yet. But we have a couple of options. We're going to primarily go with a 500 gigabyte mech for the main storage, partially because it's there.
What are you doing right now?
Right now I am making sure that I have the rest of the electrical hooked up. This is going to be your 24 pin.
Okay.
Wanna
Now, what
really
did you
get
just
this
plug in there?
This is going to be the 4 pin. It's going to be the 12 volts that's going to connect and power the actual brain of the system. It's going to be
Okay.
powering the actual CPU. The rest of the stuff going through the 24 is typically going to go to everything else.
So the motherboard and all the supporting chip architecture is being powered by the 24 pin.
Correct.
Whereas the CPU is getting its direct power through that 4 pin.
Correct.
Okay. And
fun-
is it always that way in your understanding and experience?
So guys, this is the basic green. It's literally a green power Western Digital. So it's going to be a lower powered basic hard drive.
5400 RPM rather than 7200?
Pretty sure it's, yeah, probably. I don't even know that I actually listed on here. You might have to look it up on Google.
Well,
You guys, if you're interested, I'm not actually seeing an RPM listing on here at all. And one of those sap cringes and says, oh dear, why would you use that? But we are talking building something in a pinch that can do the job.
all right.
One of the great things about this system is it has many rooms for improvement. Much like this video. No, I'm just kidding. This video is the gold. Like, this is going to be the one, guys. I'm telling you. That is the tool list. It's in there. It's not going no place. It leaves us plenty of room if we want to install that fan in the front. There's room for a 120 mil fan right there.
Right.
And it's not going to bottom out on the drive. It's still out of the way enough to get all of the peripheral stuff plugged in. Now, the one challenge we're going to have is, with this being a little older, we have Molex on the end of our SATA braids. Do we call them SATA braids? I don't feel like we do, but you know what. Now, we're basically at a spot right now where we need a couple of things. We need a couple of SATA, or serial ATA cables, for data, and then to install the GPU. It's literally all that's left to do.
And here we have, in shining glory, a nice pack. A 5-pack of serial ATA 3 6 gigabits per second
Perfect.
rated cabling.
With the exception of the spaghetti monster we got here and trying to get a little bit of cable management done, we could in theory hook this up, apply power right now, and use the native onboard to get some graphic out. It's totally doable. In a more real world situation, I would stop what I'm doing, hook it up to the internet, let it do any updating it needs to do, give it a first test boot, make sure that it works as intended now, and then go back in, tidy up cabling, and drop in the car. I'm going to go against my normal train of thought and not do a test boot on it. I'm going to slot everything together, and then we'll apply some power. From there we should have to update some drivers, maybe update some games, and see what kind of time we have. Maybe we can jump into one or two. Okay?
Groovy.
Bear with me. We're going down. This is the GPU that we're going to be installing. This is not the proper handling of a GPU.
No.
Much like any other electronic assembly, a couple of things. We can go into them more in advance in another video if somebody actually cares to watch. You should not handle PCBs by any conductive surfaces. You should hold them by the edges only. Also, you ought to be grounded for basic ESD stuff. But that's more of what we... So, I'll kind of tilt it up to show you where I'm at.
Yeah.
After moving that, we went down 2 slots. We should be clear to drop in the card. I also took some of the loosies, kind of set them out the way to get a general idea of what cable management's going to look like. It's still not going to be great, but some of this stuff can be either folded back and then zip tied secure to prevent everything from just kind of getting in the way, or something of that matter. We'll figure it out.
Now, we're going to have to lift that serial ATA cable in order for it to fit in there.
I think
Loop it over it.
I think we could be okay to go in. It's pretty long.
Okay.
We might be able to just get away with it. If I shift to that side, we can try to do it freehand standing up.
Oh, there we go.
We'll try.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm not 100% confident in my ability to do that. However, it's not rocket surgery.
Which is good.
Which is good, because I'm not qualified for that. So, under serial, we should be okay.
And as you can see, it's still a tight fit.
It's still a tight fit. We are, unfortunately, bottoming out on the power for the
Hard drive.
hard drive. So, but that's also one of the additional cables that just needs to get out of the way. So in theory, if we can get back that guy back there, make sure this one's where it needs to be, and then maybe not be so jacked up on stuff. You know what? I think we'll be all right. But you know what we're going to do? Before we get ahead of ourselves, don't mind me dropping things. Those are simply unsecured PCIe slot covers. Expansion slot covers, to be specific. Because we have this extra, let's say smart about it. One of the things that electronics has taught me over the years is that we should provide adequate stress relief. So if you've seen that, I basically moved this one into a non-populated state where nothing's hooked up. It was this one down here. Now there's all sorts of room where I'm not going to hang up on things, I'm not going to break stuff, and I'm not going to have a taut cord that in a jostle or bump is going to rip, break, or tear the connector.
Yes.
So that's essentially why that's happening.
And then as you go to plug this in,
As I'm going to plug this in,
you're going to be looking along the top where you can actually see it, and you're going to be looking at those gold connectors.
yep.
And you're going to look at those and the socket, the slot that it's going into, to make sure they're lined up.
That's right.
Otherwise, you're going to push it to the inside of the connector, And then it's just you're gonna be ramming it into your motherboard, wondering why the darn thing doesn't click at you.
Which is another reason you want to kind of be careful with this sort of stuff. Because while it's keyed, and that's great and all, you want to make sure that it's going to be a secure connection.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons I was very hesitant to even do it this way. This one does have a self-locking PCI slot, but as you can see, with nothing securing it at the tabs, we've got some serious card sag, which is going to cause some pretty unhappy issues for the card itself. So we're going to go back to the top, we're going to flip it on its side, and we're going to secure it with some screws. Or this thing?
No.
No. Alright guys, sorry. So, essentially we've got a couple of things left to do. Cable management needs to be cleaned up. By all intents and purposes, there's no loose screws. Everything's where it's supposed to be. Minus the I/O shields, which we can easily screw down. I'm fairly certain we have enough fasteners left over for that. What do you think?
Possible.
We've got 4 of them. Let's drop those bad boys in. Throw it on a desk somewhere and give it a test boot.